So without further ado, I'd like to bring Andy Beaton up for the sky this month.
Okay, the sky this month. Once again, I get called in to do the sky this month when there's nothing interesting going on, and the people who are more entertaining get to stay home. What I'm hoping to talk about, the big picture, planets, the moon, open clusters, which are a fun thing to look for on a winter night, whatever comets and meteors are out there, variable stars, because that's my thing, what's coming up in spaceflight, and a special treat at the end. So, the sky this month, I think we can probably sum up. This is what the sky is going to look like for us. This is not entirely a joke. I've actually seen some really nice pictures of sundogs that people have been posting on one of the RASC mailing lists, and that's something we can look for on those cloudy days, and moondogs on those cloudy nights. The big picture, when we go out in the evening, this is basically what we're looking at. The usual winter constellations are starting to edge towards the west. Planets, they're pretty weak. We've got Uranus there. Neptune is just kind of ducking down beneath the trees at this hour. If you have a really amazing telescope, Eris is going to be in your field of view, but I doubt any of us are going to be able to see it. Otherwise, it's your usual classic winter constellations, Orion, Auriga, all the usual ones. More interesting in the morning, this is the beginning of February. We've got the moon there, followed by Jupiter, Mars, and Saturn just poking its nose up over the trees before dawn. It's probably the most interesting thing we're going to see, but it's going to involve getting up early. We do get lots of dark skies this time of year. Astronomical twilight ends around 6:30 and starts up again at 5:45 in the morning. By the time the next meeting starts, it will be 7:12 to 5:15. But that's still lots of observing time if you want to get out there and do any long exposure astrophotography. The important dates coming up: the super blue blood full moon eclipse on the 31st, the new moon on the 15th, a partial solar eclipse coming along with the new moon, and if you check your observer's handbook, it tells you the zodiacal light is visible after evening twilight for the first half of February. That pretty much demands getting out of the city and finding some place with a nice dark western horizon. I've seen it once in my life from up at Algonquin Park, but I don't think I would try seeing it anywhere closer than that. The moon is always there and easy to see. First quarter is it's tonight. Full moon next week, so your deep sky observations are going to be impacted for the next few weeks. New moon on February 15th, one day after Valentine's Day, so you can fulfill your social duties and then get your full new moon observing in on the next night. I'm assuming most people here know what the lunar X is. If you don't, it's a point on the moon where two crater rims are colliding, and at a certain time of the month, the light hits in such a way that you get a bright white X over the dark shadows below. Unfortunately, there's nothing between here and the next meeting where the lunar X is going to show, but it's just after the next meeting, so keep it in mind if you're planning ahead. Planets. Neptune and Uranus are evening objects. They're both, Neptune's getting low, Uranus is still up there, quite visible. It's probably your best evening planet if you've got people who want to see something they haven't seen before. Pluto this month is too close to the sun to observe. It's early in the morning if you're interested in where it is and want to point it out to people, but it's not likely anybody's going to see it. The Minor Planet Series is in opposition on January 31st, and if you are interested in seeing an asteroid, it's actually a good one to start with. It's quite bright. I think 6.5 magnitude. There's a map here. This is where it is on opposition. The full moon will be here, beehive cluster there, so it makes a nice triangle. It will be easily visible with binoculars, and it's a good urban target. Asteroids are nice and concentrated and bright. It should be no difficulty for anybody to see it, assuming we get decent skies. Mercury and Venus, they're pretty much hopeless this month. Mercury is right behind the sun. Superior conjunction, is that in front of or behind? I think it's behind. And it's a lousy time to see Venus as well, although late in February it will start to appear in the evening sky if you have a nice low western horizon. The best planets are going to be your morning planet parade, Jupiter, Mars, and Saturn. Between the 7th and the 9th, the moon will be passing between Jupiter and Mars and making a nice field for a wide picture. It'll be passing by Saturn on the 11th. I think it comes within 2 degrees of it, so it'll be pretty close. A wide field telescope will probably get them both. None of them are going to be rising very high. They're in the area of Sagittarius down there. So it's not going to be a great year for any detailed imaging you might want to do. There's a lot of hype in that title. I know people out there are bugged by terms like blue moons and blood moons and supermoons. My personal experience is that whenever these titles get talked up on the news, someone from my office or one of my relatives will call me up and say, "What's this supermoon I'm hearing about?" And I get to say, it's a bigger moon. Take your binoculars out and take a look, and actually get people interested and involved. I know we're all too sophisticated and like to be swayed by hype like that, but it does spur interest among people who don't know much about astronomy. Anyway, it's coming up on January 31st. From here, it's going to be lousy. It's going to be about 23 minutes from the start of the full eclipse to the time when the moon sets. Well, that's not good, but if anybody's traveling further west, you'll be able to see more of it. If you're on a high building, you'll be able to at least see that. It is 5 in the morning when you have to get up to go looking for the thing. Personally, I don't think I'm going to bother, but I'm sure there are eclipse junkies out there who will do anything to get that little fix of astronomy in. It is the second full moon of the month. Does that make it a blue moon? Some people say yes, some people say no. I don't know. Why not? February 15th, we have a partial solar eclipse coming up, best viewed from Antarctica. I'm doubting any of us will be there, but it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon when it happens, so I'm sure some of us we can get away with looking it up on the internet while we're pretending to work. Otherwise, yeah, I'm not sure I would bother. I'm just bringing it up because February is a really dry month for events in the sky around here, and I'm scrabbling for everything I can get. Now, this is a really good time for doing the binocular program for the Explore the Moon certificate. And the reason I'm thinking that is it's too cold for anybody but the hardcorest astronomers to haul out their telescopes and spend a half hour setting up and aligning it, minus 20 degrees, and the frost is forming on your eyebrows. But on the other hand, it's not a big deal to put on your parka, grab your binoculars, go out for 10 minutes, have a look at the moon, write down what you're seeing, go back in, warm up, have some hot chocolate, have some scotch, go back out again. So if you're stuck for something to observe and actually want to do some observing that's going to have some long-term effects, get you a certificate, get you an applause while you're up here shaking Ralph's hand, this is something you can do. Now, winter is actually a really good time for deep sky. I'm a big fan of observing open star clusters. Star clusters are one of those things that work really well when you're observing from the city. Stars are nice concentrated objects. When you're in the middle of a city full of sky pollution, they get through the light pretty well. I mean, obviously it's going to be better outside, you're going to see more stars, but these, the big Messier clusters are all perfectly visible and very decent looking from inside the city. And of course, the winter brings us everybody's favorite deep sky object, either that or the one people are sick of because it's the one everyone hears about, M42. I'm bringing it up because there are things to observe in it that many people haven't seen. I mean, everybody's seen the cluster, the nebula, but not everybody has seen the trapezium at the heart of it. For that, you definitely need a telescope. If you don't have your own telescope, come out to one of the observing nights, either in the city or out at Long Sault. The trapezium, most telescopes should be able to manage it. If you're a more advanced observer, looking for the ENF star is a project worth undertaking. If you've got really good observing conditions, try looking for color. I think I've seen a hint of green once in my life, but I'm really not sure that I didn't convince myself that something was there that I really wasn't seeing. But if you go through the internet, a lot of people report seeing it, so there's a lot of credible observations that say it's quite possible with something as small as an 8-inch telescope. So that's something to shoot for if you're looking at M42 and you're tired of the same old thing. Patches of dark nebulosity are definitely in there. That gives you something else to look for. And if you're a photographer with decent equipment, you can try getting images of the Bok globules. They're little dark spots which are clouds of gas around protostars just forming. I haven't seen any myself with an 8-inch telescope, so I'm not sure what equipment is necessary, but it's definitely in range of amateur equipment. Comets and meteors. No meteor showers worthy of the name. If you're lucky, you'll see the regular sporadic field meteors, but there are going to be no good nights in the next month where it's worth going out just for that. There are a few comets out there, mostly in the 11th and 12th magnitude range. Comet C2017 T1 Heinze and 185P Petru. If you're outside already, they're worth looking for. But 11th magnitude comets, there's probably not going to be a tail worth noting. I wouldn't make a special trip out to see them, but if you're outside, it's worth a try. Now, because I love variable stars and I like encouraging people to observe them, it's Geminorum is the big star up right now. It's something known as a cataclysmic variable star. So what you have is a pair of stars orbiting each other, one giant, one dwarf. The dwarf is pulling matter off the surface of the giant. basically because gravity around the dwarf star is much stronger, and it's pretty tenuous around the outer edges of the giant star. It spirals in an accretion disk, and as it does so, it undergoes spontaneous fusion. You get giant explosions, which take the magnitude of the variable star up 5, 6 magnitudes in a single night. Now, I like these because they're a good target for amateur observers. Professional observers, they've got a whole bunch of automated cameras running around the world now. And what they do is they take a picture of the sky every night or every 2 nights or every 3 nights. And the long-term variables, they get pretty much picked up by automated programs nowadays. But these guys, they're random. You don't really know when they're going to go off, and you don't know how fast it's going to be. So these are really a good target of opportunity for amateurs. There are too many of these things for professionals to watch in a full time, so it gets farmed out to the amateur community. We have a database that's monitored in real time by professional astronomers, so if you see something happening on this, you can catch it on the upswing. The professionals can point their telescopes there, and you get good scientific data. And that's easily available to anybody with a modest telescope. So I encourage you to look into that. If you're interested in getting into variable stars in a big way, feel free to contact me on the mailing list or email me, and I'll be happy to talk about it. Coming up in the world of spaceflight, a previously flown Falcon 9 will be launching a communications satellite on the 30th. It's somewhat interesting. We're getting to the point where previously flown Falcons are not as exciting as they used to be, which is actually kind of cool. The Falcon Heavy is a more interesting thing. It just went through its engine test, was it earlier today, I think, and that went successfully. So they're promising a launch sometime in the next 2 weeks. The date hasn't been specified, but we can watch for that, and I'm sure it will be announced somewhere on one of our social media platforms. And from now until February 14th is a good time for the space station to be observed during the evening. I don't know about you guys, but I've had a lot of fun when you're at party. You set up your phone to ring an alarm 10 minutes before, bring everybody out to see the space station passing over. And most people haven't consciously seen it before, and they're pretty excited to know that that's a spaceship full of people flying overhead. It's a cool thing to impress people who don't know what's possible in the world of space. Heavensabove.com gives exact time for whatever location you're at. Now, it is always cloudy, and it's been cloudy for the past month, so I'm going to finish off with a short list of remote telescopes available on the internet. The only one I've actually used is the last one listed there, slew.com. But if you're like me, you're getting fed up with the amount of cloudy skies we've had for the past few weeks or few months. And if you're desperate for that fix of sky, remote telescopes is actually a pretty workable solution. You're looking at something in real time. If you're the kind of advanced amateur who has an observatory with a camera on it that you run from inside, it's really the same thing. It's just a slightly longer cord between your telescope and your eye. So that's really all I can offer, unless the weather improves, which I hope it will. And when I say improves, I mean clear and warmer than -25. So good luck, and I hope we have clear skies. And, any questions?
Andy, speaking of variable stars.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of variable stars, is this a good time for people to look at Myra, which is a classic variable star approaching second magnitude? Ought to be easy to see with unaided eye, even in the city. And so last week was around 2.5 magnitude. So it seems like an ideal beginner project or anything to look at for just for the sake of looking at anything in the sky.
Yeah.
It seems like an ideal time, I'd say.
Yeah, that's actually a really good choice. Myra, also known as Omicron Ceti, is just about the most famous variable star. If you haven't gone looking for variable stars before, it's a really good one to start with. And if you go to the aavso.org website, you'll get instructions on how to find it and how to record your observations.
Sorry, it's more a comment than a question. One of the one of the comets is Comet Petru, and it was discovered by an RASC member at a star party near Saskatoon.
No kidding.
So it's got a Canadian connection. And I gave a comet project to my students, and they each had to pick a comet, and one of them picked that, and I sent Vance, I'm not sure his first name,
Vance.
an email about it, and he was just thrilled to think that students were referring to it. So
Okay, well, if you want to send them an email and tell them I've recommended that all the members of the Toronto Centre go out and look for it, maybe that will please them too.
Then I'll say thank you, Andy, and looking forward to clearer skies soon, we hope.
Yes.